like Martin said, half a loaf is better than none. In fact, the prosecution could have ended in the state getting zero. As we saw in the out-of-forcing trial, Japa trial, prosecutions can end in nothing. In that case, some of us blame the Attorney General that the money was actually up for grabs. And he used technicality not to accept it. And now everything was lost. Not a dime is recovered. So some say, if you get 60%, why not?
Well, Samson, let me greet my constituents who brought me here. Also to greet our panelists. I haven't met you on this program for a very long time.
So never been. This is my first time.
Yeah, so it's good to.
he doesn't like me that much.
Okay. Samson, I think.
Okay, so hold on 1 second.
Yes.
So you realize that I didn't invite you here, right?
I know. Well, you could have.
No.
Over the years.
No. I'm saying this just on a lighter note. Yeah. But I want the public to know something. All of you here, I didn't invite you. Because here, it's a professional program. Unlike elsewhere where the host is just Kobo, calls people to come and do. Here, until around 9 p.m. last night, I didn't know who was coming on the show. Okay, please go on.
Yes. So, Samson, I would say that this conversation is good for us. It is important that we progress as a nation. And I find it interesting that questions are being asked and the Minister, the Attorney General, has indicated that he will provide more information. On the issue of whether we should cut our losses or we should continue to incur more losses, especially when we are not sure of the outcome of the prosecution. From the point of view of a finance person, I would say I won't throw good money after bad, especially when I'm not too sure whether I even get a dime back. But there is a bigger conversation that we need to have. In some sense, I heard you mention 30 billion being spent on financial sector cleanup. I agree. But people should not think that the 30 billion was spent on saving Unibank. It was spent on the entire financial sector cleanup.
400 plus.
Exactly. So we are looking at 5.7 or 5.8 billion out of 30 billion. What happens to the rest, which is the biggest chunk?
In fact, there's also the other argument,
yes,
which your friends like Obne Japan buys in, that we could have saved 8 billion and not collapse the banks.
Yes, I'll come to that. I'll come to that. So we need to question the decision itself. And it has come to our notice, and based on recent developments, that if for nothing at all, but for regulatory forbearance, we would have lost NIB. Okay? The deposit in NIB is about 6.9 billion. It has cost the current government just a little above 2 billion to save the bank, and therefore not look for 6.9 billion to give to depositors and to save 900 jobs. So quite clearly, it stands to reason that the decisions that were taken need to be interrogated as to whether that was the best decision to make, whether we needed to go spending so much money just to solve a 9 billion problem. Certainly, there are questions there to be answered. And I agree with you when you say that the regulators at the time needed to answer questions. But of course, it's not only the regulators. Let me assure you that no regulator will take out a bank and impose the fiscal burden on the fiscal authorities without their approval. So the finance minister has to go to cabinet and make a case that the state must cough up 30 billion for banks to be dissolved. So we need to ask the government at the time, what was the basis for spending 30 billion and approving a transaction that will lead to the collapse of those banks without interrogating other alternative means of addressing the same problem? So that conversation needs to be had. And it brings about the biggest conversation around making sure that our regulatory processes are so tight, not just to ensure that the quality of our assets in the banking sector are good, but to ensure that the corporate governance processes are able to protect all of us from these type of exigencies. So I would wait to see what my big brother, the Attorney General, will say further. But I think that the country must open a bigger conversation into the decisions, the rationale behind collapsing the banks and spending 30 billion, when it has become very clear that we just avoided a 6.9 billion problem with just 2 billion. You know, and that bank is already making profit. Only recently, they declared that just the first quarter alone, they've made a profit of 74 million Ghana cedis. You know, and jobs have been saved.
What information do you have? Is it actual 60% of this money that has been paid in cash, or its assets that have been recovered that constitute the 60%?
Unfortunately, I don't have those details. You see, the bigger problem that we even have to have is this. Those banks had assets taken over by somebody.
That's right.
There were loan portfolios that were supposed to be recovered by somebody. There were assets of the bank that were supposed to be recovered by somebody. How much is that, and how much of it has been recovered?
Yeah,
that could be far bigger than the figures we are discussing.
We know the GN banks, the
and all of
Capital
that.
Bank, all their properties across the country were taken over
recently
by
I saw
Consolidated
in the
Bank.
papers about the case of
And
Beige
the
Bank.
Ghana Commercial Bank.
Yeah,
yes.
Beige Bank. Recently I saw that he had been successful in the court. I don't know what that means. But that simply means that it is possible to end the trial with nothing in hand.
That's true. Okay, but in the wake of this, in 1 minute, what will you say? Is there a justification to continue to have Atuesian in jail? His liability was 90 million. He paid almost 40 million and said, I beg you, give me time, I'll pay back.
Well, I don't know the circumstances. And here, in fact, I will hire you as a lawyer to explain to me what your thoughts are. I don't have any thoughts on this because I don't have the capacity, you know, to make those judgments that were made at the time, and as to whether at this point in time, Atuesians being incarcerated is justified or not. I think time will tell.
Let's hear